All right, here we go. This is Jordan Peterson. Do you think a transgender is a real woman?
One of our guests of the day, the other one today, is a man you may recognise, or maybe you don't. Jordan Peterson has achieved that rare feat, becoming a global superstar academic. So how did he become so well known? He first came to national prominence in Canada in 2016 in a debate about new laws on gender identity. Bill C-16 made it an offence to refuse to call someone by their chosen gender pronoun. Jordan Peterson argued that this would infringe free speech. While some supporters of the bill said he was...
And no one has ever gone to prison because of it. I'm not sure that anyone's ever even been charged because of this.
advocating prejudice. From there, his YouTube star took off, and he has now over 1 million subscribers. And his videos, where he talks everything from identity politics, which we've touched on, to the Bible, to Disney movies, have been viewed over 150 million times. Gosh, that's about the same number of viewers we have on this programme. Ha. Last year, he supported ex-Google employee James Damore, who had been fired for suggesting men and women have different interests due to biological differences. And his latest book, 12 Rules for Life, has taken him on a global tour promoting his ideas, and just this week he sold out the 1,000-seater Emmanuel Centre around the corner here in Westminster. So Jordan, you've done endless interviews, you've been publicising your book, and they've generated plenty of heated debate.
No, I actually sold out the Apollo. It had 5,000 seats.
All right, stop boasting. Do you think, though, because of the heat that has been generated, that your views have been misrepresented at times?
Oh, definitely, but that's, you know, that's part and parcel of the process. I did take a very forceful stance, let's say, against some of the excesses of the radical left-wingers, and it's in their best interest to paint me as somehow a figure of the extreme right, because then I don't have to be contended with.
Yeah, this is an older video.
It's easy for people's views to be oversimplified in a very large public debate.
I mean, in terms of some of the issues, I mean, you say you've been painted as an extreme right-winger.
No, some people have tried that. Not very successfully, but they've tried it.
And you came to prominence.
Yeah, I just happen to have a ton of Nazis in my audience. Like, come on, dude.
In part over your opposition to this law that we just talked about in Canada, proposing the use of preferred pronouns for transgender people. Just for clarity...
Mandating them.
Yeah.
Right.
Saying that you should do it.
No,
but,
that you had to do it.
Right, you had to do it by law.
Right.
But just for clarity, do you think a trans woman is a real woman?
He's not going to say yes.
I don't really like the way those questions are formulated.
Why? Just say it's a simple question.
Now, I don't know what that means. What do you mean a real woman?
Well,
oh, you know what? Maybe he's going a little bit more, you know, big-headed. Maybe Jordan Peterson is a fellow gender abolitionist comrade. You know,
I'm asking you, in your mind, you know, it depends what you think a real woman is, but do you think a trans woman is a woman?
No.
Why not?
Because I think that women are capable, generally speaking, of having babies, and they have female genitalia, and they have...
Generally speaking, right? So, a woman might not be able to have a baby. A woman might not even have female genitalia, even. Right? A woman might not have breasts. A woman might not have high estrogen and low testosterone levels. A woman might not even have, you know, the XX chromosome. Chromosomes might have a different configuration in there, you know? It seems as if he acknowledges that women broadly fall into a certain category, but he's unwilling to acknowledge other kinds of women that might fall, that might be minorities in that category.
An XX chromosome, and I think the biological markers are relevant. It doesn't necessarily...
Wait, Jordan Peterson, how many women have you personally seen give birth? How many women have you personally taken DNA tests from to look at their chromosomes? If the answer to if the answer to the give birth question is 1, then you have 1 data point. If the answer to the chromosome question is none, which it probably would be if you're being any kind of good faith, and the answer is the chromosomes don't matter, right? Maddie, thank you so much for the raid. Buckle Industries, welcome back. Thank you so much for guiding the raid in. I appreciate it. Welcome everybody. We're just listening to Daddy Peterson try and justify how trans women aren't real women, despite the fact that there are some women who fall outside of the norms when it comes to genitalia, chromosomes, secondary gendered characteristics like breasts, etc. But he's not willing to extend that to trans women. So, you know, it's an interesting exercise. He believes that women aren't women. Yeah, exactly. That's essentially what he's trying to explain here. Always after watching Hassan clip. Parkside Twan, that's because YouTube is subtly telling you that Hassan is a transphobe, okay? That's why you need to watch only me and not Hassan, alright? Just say you hate trans women. Yeah, no kidding. Also, Raiders, welcome! My name is Riverboat Jack. I'm a cute socialist. I talk about socialism, decommodification, democracy in the workplace, and we're doing the rounds on right-wing Hogwatch today. Hassan's a transphobe. No, Hassan isn't a transphobe. I'm sorry. I was just trying to manipulate all of you to get you to watch my content instead of his. I was being naughty. Cute socialist, redundant, true. Bill C-16 essentially added trans people to the identifiable groups protected under hate crime laws. No one has been arrested for misused pronouns, as misusing pronouns does not constitute a crime in Canada, but Jordan and others have sounded the alarm of people being arrested for pronoun misuse and ignored the addition of trans people to groups protected from hate crimes. So fuck Peterson. Yeah, absolutely.
Mean that I don't think that.
Oh, also, Raiders, click the little picture of my face below stream so I get credit for your lovely, lovely eyeballs, and consider hitting that follow button, because I'm cool, and if you're enjoying this content, give me money, please.
People should be treated with respect and dignity if they happen not to fit easily into...
Wait. I think people deserve to be treated with respect and dignity. Except for trans women. Trans women aren't real women, and I refuse to use their proper pronouns. Get fucked, Jordan Peterson. Sant Matt Rad Hasoami, thank you for the follow.
To a gender category, that's a different issue.
Right.
But it's a matter of definition, and I actually think it's a foolish argument in some sense, because what do you mean by real?
Well, I mean, you've just clarified that, though.
Well, Jordan Peterson, are you a real man? Are you a real man? Prove it to me. Show me your chromosomes, Jordan Peterson. If you cannot show me your chromosomes, you are not a real man.
You don't think that a trans woman is a woman, and do you think that that is what is behind or explains your opposition to this idea of a law mandating you to use a preferred pronoun, is because you don't actually believe that that's...
Has he sired any progeny? Well, allegedly, he has a daughter that only eats meat.
The truth that a trans woman is a woman, and therefore you can't use that pronoun?
No, that's not my argument at all.
Really?
Yeah, really. My argument is that the government shouldn't compel voluntary speech.
No, but I know what your argument is. And
no, but that's...
Wait, no, your argument isn't that the government shouldn't compel voluntary speech. Your argument is that trans people shouldn't be included under hate crime laws. That's literally what your argument was about. Your entire argument was about how trans people shouldn't be included under anti-hate crime protections like other groups in Canada are. Again, for people like Jordan Peterson, it's a really simple solution. Put your money where your mouth is and say the N-word. After all, you have free speech, right? You believe in the power of free speech. You believe in non-compelled speech. What are the consequences of saying the N-word to a black person in Canada? I mean, probably not good. Would that constitute a hate crime in Canada? I don't know. But you know what? Just say it. Like, just say the slurs for the people you hate, okay? We all know you want to say them. Just say them. Say the T slur for trans folks. You know, just do it. Come on. That is what you want to do. They're not real women. They're T slurs, you know?
Very
Really
clearly.
it. No, but that's exactly it. There's
but the
no behind.
motivation.
Well, yeah, anarchist laboratory, Sean. That's my point. These people are all cowards who hide behind semantics.
There's
behind
no motivation behind it.
But you don't believe
I wouldn't
that
put
trans woman is a woman.
everything on my online in my life to take the stance I did unless I had thought that through very deeply. And I've thought it through very deeply. There aren't hidden motivations that have to do with some arbitrary prejudice against trans people.
Okay.
It's pure.
Then why did you oppose them being protected by hate crime legislation like other groups are currently?
And simply this. There's never been a time in English common law history where the government compelled speech, and the Canadian government dared to do that. And
Wait, they did it before with black people. They did it with indigenous folks. There are currently protected classes in Canada. What are you talking about?
that was unacceptable. And they masked it with this show of compassion for the oppressed, and I don't buy it.
Right, but you would, as I think you said, at an individual level, if somebody
Would and
asked you,
have.
if somebody asked you to use a particular pronoun, you would do so.
Well, I have.
You have?
Yes.
Right, fine.
Yes.
Let's talk about feminism. Are you a feminist?
No, not as it's current.
Also, Clef86 and JP Morseman, thank you both for the follows. I appreciate it quite a bit.
Currently defined, certainly not.
No. Well, in any other definition?
Well, I think that anybody who doesn't think that the competitive landscape should be opened up for equality of opportunity is not thinking. And so everyone's interests are better served if people have as equal access to opportunity to display their talents and to manifest their talents in the world as possible. So in that sense, certainly. But feminism now, and this is why it's so deeply unpopular, a very small minority of women in the UK identify as feminists. And the reason for that is it's primarily become
Damn, tell that to the TERFs, okay?
an ideological weapon. And it's an ideology that I detest, actually, the ideology that it's associated with, collectivist ideology.
Right. I mean, okay, and that's
It is really impressive how he can talk for like 2 minutes and not say anything.
your view about feminism. Aisha, are you a feminist?
Oh, absolutely. I'm a very proud feminist, and when I was a special advisor in government, I worked on women and equality issues, and I'm very proud actually of a piece of legislation I got on the statute book with my former boss Harriet Harman, the Equality Act in 2010, which strengthened our anti-discrimination laws. And I fought very hard to get more women into public life, into the Labour Party, and I'm very, very proud of being a feminist. Hence my
Honestly, Jordan Peterson's entire thing is sounding smart and authoritative, and it resonates with a lot of young men who need father figures, okay?
pink dress.
Oh, well, all right. Obviously reverting to type then in the pink dress.
Absolutely, well.
You would like men to regain or reclaim their strength physically, mentally and morally. Is that broadly correct?
I would say morally, fundamentally, but I think the other things go along with that.
Right, and if that
But it isn't men precisely who I'm speaking to. It's people. I'm a clinical psychologist.
Is it though? Your audience is like 95% male, dude. You know this. Come on. Don't play dumb about this. And also, I love how he very subtly there is like, yeah, I think being a big, strong, burly man is part of your moral duty if you're a man, right? Like, he snuck that in there sideways. And I don't know, it's interesting to me how he seems to be like, well, no, men can be however they want, freedom, rah, rah, rah. But also, it's your moral duty as a man to be big and strong, and no weakness here, okay? It's why Nazis love him, guys. He plays perfectly into the masculine victimhood complex that fascism thrives on. Like a lot of the core tenets of fascism derive from a threatened masculinity. It's part of the reason why the Nazis were so effective at recruiting people in the Weimar Republic, because there were gay rights activists, there were open trans people, there were feminists living and thriving within the Weimar Republic. And one of the big things that caused their the recruitment of Nazis to soar was how that threatened men.
I'm actually interested in individuals, and I'm interested in their fortification against tragedy. You know, every time I do an interview, the interview is always political. It's always political.
Well, the clue is in the title of this programme. We are the Daily Politics.
No, fair enough. No, look, fair enough. And I'm not casting aspersions at this programme, but the fundamental news that's important about what I'm doing isn't the political element. And the people who talk to me don't talk politically. They say they've watched my lectures.
But part of it is that I think for a lot of people the kind of personal does become the political.
Or the political becomes the personal.
Yeah.
Which is a really great point. A lot of people don't have, a lot of normies, like especially if you're here, you probably have a more coherent political ideology than, like, I don't know, 90% of people who are just going about their day-to-day lives, largely ignoring political involvement. Zed out eyes, anyone who has a little green sword next to their name. But the other thing is this idea of the personal becomes political is true. That is how most normies interact with politics. They don't have coherent political ideologies. They just know, well, I like this thing because it personally affected me, and I dislike that thing because it personally hurt me. You know, like that's about as far as most political ideologies go. And if you dig into it, it turns out most people don't have, like, a coherent ideology based on those experiences. Yeah, like, if your identity as an indigenous trans man wasn't politicized, then it probably wouldn't be political for me. Well, yeah, right? Like, that is, I think, why, like, a lot of trans people, a lot of minorities tend to become more radicalized or more invested in the political systems that we exist in. It's because we have to be, because it is a state that is largely thrust upon us, right? Yeah.
And I think in terms of the...
but in this situation, a lot of people are wrong, because primarily what's happening is people are watching my lectures, and as a consequence, their lives are improving dramatically.
Oh, I'm sure they are. I'm sure people are, like, have had a huge conversion after, and they're much happier once they've been...
It's not a conversion.
But what I would like to do is kind of almost... I think
Yo, Smite Knight, thank you for subscribing and being part of the community for the past 8 months, you absolute legend. You're really coming along. You're 1 month away from having that chat baby. Please, everyone go check out Smite Knight. They are a wonderful little, wonderful content creator, okay? A good boy.
Moment the discussion about feminism is very divisive, and sometimes it can sort of be like, okay, men have to lose and women have to gain. Actually, everybody has a lot to gain by greater equality. Now, whether you get the equality of outcome that you want, I think only time will tell. But certainly, equality of opportunity is very important. And actually,
we can agree on that.
And a lot of men would benefit from that. So I think a lot of men are having a lot of crises at the moment in terms of mental health, suicide issues, their own sense of identity, because I think some of the stereotypes...
Hey, Prez Renegade. We're watching Lobster Man because chat decided this is what we were going to do, okay? So don't blame me, blame chat, okay? Don't blame the system. Blame chat.
Put on men are quite limiting for them as well. I think they make men quite unhappy as well.
The devil's in the details with regards to equality, because I'm an advocate of equality of opportunity. But
And
I think
Is the devil in the details regarding equality? Is there? Hey, Quincy.
the idea outcomes, that's an appalling doctrine.
Why?
Why?
All right. Well, hang on.
Because you have to produce an unbelievably potent bureaucracy to make the ever greater and ever finer distinctions that are necessary to enforce equality of outcome. How many group differences are you going to equalize across? Is it just gender and sex? How many genders?
No, so
gender and ethnicity? How many genders?
I think
how many
what
ethnicities?
people are-
How many races?
Wow. You know what? I never thought I'd say this, but based, forward-thinking Jordan Peterson acknowledging that there are more than two genders. You know, if only, you're right. If only there was some kind of almost like personalized bureaucracy where you could engage in some kind of democratic decision-making in your workplace.
Are you sure answer?
I think what people are trying to do with this, and certainly as somebody who has sought to sort of do this myself, I think you set yourself ambitions for what you would like to see, and then you try and remove as many of the structural barriers and obstacles. So you try and create that fair crack of the whip and that equality of opportunity to see where you get to with the outcomes.
That's
now,
fine.
we are in very early stages. It's only 100 years since women got the vote in this country. We have had a long established patriarchal.
I believe it's less in America, so yeah, it hasn't been a long time. Women could only have like bank accounts and credit cards in like starting in the 70s. Like we're not that far away from like women being completely disempowered in the workforce.
Society and set up for a long time in the world, in this country. So I think we have a long way to go to
Good
see
night, Mithril
where
Mist.
it plays out.
Get
There is
good
no
sleep.
country in the world where we really do have gender equality properly yet, in terms of real decision making and real
Some of the
power.
Scandinavian countries,
But
maybe?
they're still not quite there, and I think you've spoken a lot about this. There's still a way to go in Scandinavia. Things are not perfect in
I
Scandinavia
haven't
at
spoken
all.
about that specifically. I've spoken about
You spoke about the right stuff yesterday. You talked about the
Well,
Scandinavian.
I've spoken about the fact that, see, one of the things that's happened in the analysis of the differences between men and women is that the social constructionist claim is that the differences are socially constructed, right? Is that it's a consequence of environment that men and women differ. But what the scientific literature indicates is that as cultures become more egalitarian, like they have in Scandinavia, the differences between men and women actually increase rather than decreasing, which is a direct repost to the social constructionist view. So they just deny all that. The biggest differences in the world in interest and temperament are between Scandinavian men and women. It's exactly the opposite of what everyone predicted.
Can I just pick up on one thing you said a little earlier in the interview, which you said it's the moral guidance that you are focused on. You think that is particularly important. How do you square that with the behaviour of...
Look, also, it's fine if there are broad differences between how men act and how women act, right? That's fine. The issue is the prescriptivist notion for when you're not a woman because you act like a man or you act outside of your norm. That is the problem. No one is complaining about the fact that like men and women don't act exactly the same. Like that's not the issue.
Perhaps arguably, a prominent alpha male president of the United States, Donald Trump, when
Donald Trump is the least alpha person in the world. Like, the least alpha person in the world. Come on now.
his behaviour, he is accused of having an affair with a porn star when his wife was pregnant. How does that fit with morally reclaiming?
I would say that was rather clearly immoral.
Right.
Yeah,
but you
not,
would still,
not to be a target for emulation.
but you
not
still would have
something to
voted
pursue.
for him over
Well,
Hillary
to be fair,
Clinton
those-
as
to be
an
fair, though,
identity politics.
none of the-
I mean, it's just how
None
do
of that
you
was
win the
on the
lottery?
table, and I said I might have voted for him on a whim. That's all.
But you also did say you started out feeling quite close to Hillary Clinton. Can I just come
Yeah.
on the
Very
on the-
quickly, 'cause
just
we've got to
quickly.
move on.
In a way,
We've got
I
to get
don't
to
really,
your book.
I don't care what Trump does in terms of his private life, but
Sure.
what I don't have is him stopping or potentially stopping other women having agency over their reproductive
You're right, Carpe Pax. That's Sigma male behavior, okay?
rights, and lots of men taking those decisions.
It's
for
all
example.
about where the moral outrage lies and what's
Yeah.
more morally outrageous in people's eyes. Is it his behaviour or the identity politics?
All right. I don't think that Jordan Peterson calmly explains why feminism is now deeply unpopular, has become an ideological weapon for political groups. I don't think he did that at all in this video, actually. I think he had an incredibly poor show.